In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at solving a variety of different equations, one involving square roots, one involving a perfect square, and one involving fractions. We'll start with the problem involving square roots. We have 3 times the square root of x plus 5 equals 18. The first thing that you want to do is you want to get rid of the 3 from both sides. You want to get rid of anything that's outside the square root first. So to undo 3 times, we divide by 3 on both sides. That leaves us with the square root of x plus 5 on the left, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Next, we want to get rid of that square root. The opposite of a square root, or the undo of a square root, is to square both sides. So we square both sides, and the square cancels out the square root. We're left with x plus 5. 6 squared is 36. Another way to think about it, you can think about what number would I take the square root of to get 6. Square root of 36 is 6, so we know x plus 5 has to be 36. And then we just subtract 5 from each side, and x equals 31. So the key to remember here is to undo a square root, you square. Here we have a problem involving a perfect square, x minus 4 squared, plus 2 equals 27. Again, the first thing we want to do is get rid of anything outside of that perfect square. So we want to get rid of the positive 2, so we subtract 2 from each side. That leaves us with x minus 4 squared equals 25. Now, just like on the last problem, to undo a square root, we squared both sides. Here, to undo a squared, we're going to take the square root of both sides. So the square root of the left cancels out the square, and we have x minus 4. The square root of 25 is 5. However, we need to think about this a little bit here and ask ourselves, well, 5 squared is 25, but is there another number that we could square to get 25? And we could. It's negative 5. So when you're solving this type of problem and you take the square root of both sides, you're going to end up with a positive and a negative 5. So then we can write 2 equations. X minus 4 equals positive 5, and x minus 4 equals negative 5. We add 4 to positive 5, and we get x equals 9. We add 4 to negative 5, and we get x equals negative 1. And now let's take a look at solving equations with fractions. So we have x over 6 plus 1/4 minus x over 3 equals 1/2. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to multiply by the lowest common denominator. We don't want fractions. Fractions are difficult to work with, so we want to try and get rid of those fractions. In order to get rid of those fractions, we multiply by the lowest common denominator. In this case, it's 12. You can start with your largest fraction, or your largest denominator, 6. 6 is not divisible by 4, though. So if we multiply by 6, we'd still have a fraction here. So let's go up 6 more. Let's go up to 12. If we multiply by 12, 12 is divisible by 6, 12 is divisible by 4, 3, and 2. So 12 will work. So we multiply everything by 12. And notice, I just multiply the top of everything by 12, just the numerator. Also, I leave the 12 there for my next step. I don't try and simplify it right away. You can, if you're good at it, but if you're struggling with it, keep that number that you multiply it by on top of each one of the fractions. And then you can simplify. 12 divided by 6 is 2 times x. 12 divided by 4 is 3 times 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4 times x. It's 4x, and we're subtracting. 12 divided by 2 is 6 times 1 is 6. So we have 2x plus 3 minus 4x equals 6. Now it's much easier to solve. We want to get rid of that 3 from both sides, so we subtract 3, and we combine our x's. 2x minus 4x is negative 2x. 6 minus 3 is 3. So we have negative 2x equals 3. And then to get rid of the negative 2, we have to divide both sides by negative 2. So x equals negative 3 halves. Again, the big thing to remember is you need to multiply by the lowest common denominator to get rid of the fractions. You can do it in multiple steps. If, for example, we had multiplied the whole equation by 6 instead of 12. Multiplying by 6 would have gotten rid of the first, the third, and the fourth fraction. But we still would have had a fraction here. That's okay. We're just going to have to multiply a second time to get rid of that fraction. Okay? It's just easiest if we find the lowest common denominator and multiply by that right away.